What's up, everybody? This is Alex Mathers here in Georgia, Tbilisi, checking in with you, responding to one of the questions that came through from Nancy, your brand strategist. Asked a question about how I deal with living for extended periods overseas. How do I cope emotionally, financially, administratively, bureaucratically, and psychologically? Well, it's a good question. It's a difficult one to answer within 10 minutes, and I'll probably expand on this in other videos. But just to sort of give you a little bit of a background in terms of my travel/work experience, the seed of my interest for traveling and working probably and very likely grew out of my experience growing up with a diplomatic family. My dad was a diplomat. So we followed him around every 3 years, jumping from country to country since I was, an embryo, effectively. So the first place we lived and where I was born was Denmark. Lived in Copenhagen, and then we lived in various other places, including Iran, Sweden, Barbados, Jamaica, Austria, and the UK for a good stint. So I've always had a sense of continual upping sticks and moving to the next place after 3 years, literally built into my DNA, so to speak. And I think the sense of needing novelty and enjoying the movement, even though it wasn't always easy, I had to continually move away from friends that I'd only just made and that kind of stuff. So it wasn't always easy, but I suppose the challenge of moving was something I experienced pretty young, and something that I managed to, I think, kind of mentally overcome quite young. So, and I went to boarding school when I was 13. So I've lived away from home from a very young age, and I've been through all the homesickness and the worries and all the things about missing home and all that kind of stuff. I went through at a young age, so I was fairly well hardened to all the struggles that are associated with travel and working abroad quite early. And I think all the positives were also experienced early. So that meant that all the things that I liked about moving and all the whole thing about experiencing novelty overseas and enjoying different environments and different cultures, which I enjoyed, was something that I wanted to keep experiencing, which is why I suppose I have veered towards being a bit of a digital nomad. And so beyond all the places that I lived as a kid with my family, up until the age of 18, where we lived in Jamaica, which is pretty cool. Reggae, man, and cool runnings and all that, man. You see what I'm saying, man? Listening to reggae all day long, man, miss it. That was nice. Then I went into university in London, and I pretty much sort of did my own thing. And it wasn't until about 5 years into my time in London that I decided to sort of go full slog and live overseas just by myself properly. I mean, I've done little trips and stuff. I'd lived in Iceland for a couple of weeks, by myself when I was 18, and I went on a trip to Japan by myself. But it wasn't until I was about 26 or so that I went to Japan and decided to live in Tokyo. And it's a case-by-case basis, so you've got questions about the bureaucracy behind it and the administrative aspect of visas and stuff like that, and it depends where you're from. It might be a lot harder for some of you, it might be a lot easier, it depends where you're going. In the case of Japan, I zeroed in on the working holiday visa, which is basically a year-long system whereby you get granted to, you're allowed to stay in the country for a year, as long as you're under the age of 30, and as long as you do some kind of documenting of your trips through blogs and things like that. People I think you just got to tell them, basically. You don't actually have to do it, but the Japanese like to know that you're sending and sharing good vibes about the country. And I think you are allowed to do some work, whether it be freelancing or working for a company there, under the working holiday visa, but that's now finished. I also lived in Vietnam, in Ho Chi Minh City for about 14 months, and that was a case of taking advantage of the grey area there. I don't think I was strictly allowed to work as a freelancer there. I think I needed to really be under a business visa or a work visa, which I didn't have. I was simply under a constantly re-extended travel visa, but you know, in places like that, for the time being, that kind of stuff is possible. And the same applied to Thailand recently. So legally probably wasn't allowed to, I don't want to go into this too deeply because I don't want to be deported from anywhere, but wasn't probably strictly allowed to work in the way that I have been working. So as a coach and illustrator, what else have I been doing to earn money? Write, stuff like that. So that again was the case. Well, it wasn't an extended travel visa this time. It was an education visa. So I would sign up to a local school to study, and I went through about 3 phases of different courses. So the first one was in learning Thai, the second one was learning French, and the third one was learning Japanese. And I had to go in every 3 months, sign the documents, say that I'd been to class, show up to the immigration to get them to stamp the thing. Then I would have to leave occasionally to go to Laos to queue up to get the thing stamped, because you have to be overseas in order to get a visa to get back into an education visa to get back into Thailand. It's all a bit complicated really, but this is the thing. You just got to figure out what works for you and what you can get away with. And you might just want to just go the totally legit route and get a working visa through either working for a company part-time or full-time, or getting someone to just sign on your behalf, or whatever it is that can work. You just have to look into it, Google it. People are finding ways all the time to live overseas and do their own freelance stuff or start their own business or whatever. Obviously it's going to be a lot harder to live somewhere like North Korea than somewhere like where I am right now, Georgia. So in this instance, I was really appealed to Tbilisi because of the very attractive and smooth visa options for people like me in the UK and Americans, and a lot of people from different countries don't have too much problem here when it comes to visa. They have a year-long visa-free system here, whereby you can just show up and up to a year live here without even needing a visa. So it's pretty straightforward. You're even allowed other really nice, attractive options like being able to buy a house, buy land, which you couldn't do in Thailand and things like that. So look at it all as on a case by case. I'll go into more of this in other videos if you guys want to hear more, but in terms of emotionally dealing with it, as I said, I've had practice in traveling and living alone in places. I've always been someone who prefers solitude anyway, so I can go pretty long stints without, speaking to a human being and be pretty happy. Other people probably couldn't do that, but it's quite, if you want to meet people, there's always a lot of expats living in the places that you are at, and in many cases it's a lot easier actually to socialize and make friends, which I've found, because people are in the same situation as you. You just have to go online. The internet's amazing, social media, find a way to connect with people through meetups or coffee dates or whatever, and you'll find that many people are receptive to meeting you because they're in the same position as you. They're on their own overseas. So in many cases, socializing and finding friends and stuff is a lot easier when you live this kind of life. Anyway, the 10 minutes is coming to a close, but I hope that's a good introduction to what it might be like to live overseas, and that it is possible for many of you guys. Obviously, it's easier for some of you. In any case, I'm probably going to end up back in London again fairly soon. I want to expand my coaching business and do a lot more one-to-one coaching with people in the city. So that's where things are moving right now. If you've got any other questions, seriously, I do answer them, I do read them, so write them down below. And much love, be good to yourselves, take care. I'm going to be trying to put out, I can't even talk today. I'm going to try and put out more regular videos and more of them. I know that it's probably going to be too much for some of you guys, but I want to really fill out my YouTube channel now, so expect more vids, expect more of the much love from Alex Mathers. Signing out. Make sure you subscribe and make sure you tell your mates, okay, about how amazing Alex Mathers is, alright? Take care, guys.